64 Tacos Podcasts presents Is This Song Good? This is episode 81. Marcy Playground, Rebel Sodville.
Welcome to I Caught It on Audio. In today's episode, we are continuing our Is This Song Good series. Theme this time around is One Hit Wonders, but not the hit. Dan, you picked the song this time. Why don't you tell us what it is and tell us why you picked it?
The artist is Marcy Playground. The song is Rebel Sodville. Their one hit wonder is Sex and Candy. And that was off their debut album. I think it was the Sex and Candy was their third single. So they were clearly having trouble reaching the audience they were trying to, or at least the record label was. I don't think anybody really knows, who didn't buy the album, any of the other Marcy Playground songs. And
yeah, I don't remember any of them on the radio.
And I guess you could argue that It's Saturday was a hit off of Shapeshifter, the next album. But that barely made a dent on the radio.
I feel like I heard St. Joe on the school bus somewhere. I don't know if it was in a movie or something, or just the hundreds of times that I listened to that album. But I think that was actually around, but it certainly wasn't as large as the Sex and Candy song was.
Yeah. I mean, it was a single, and it was out before Sex and Candy. But I didn't. The first Marcy Playground song I remember was Sex and Candy. I love that album, the debut album. It's one of those ones that I think most people just didn't bother to pick up. It was successful, but it didn't really give them a long, successful career in the aftermath. And then I picked up Shapeshifter later on because I was like, Marcy Playground, I like Marcy Playground. The song I chose off of this album, I don't know that the album's quite as good as their first, but what it is more expansive and sort of more fully produced. And a good example of that is Rebel Sodville. It's got big rock guitar sound and a real genuine guitar solo and big epic vocals and stuff. And so I've always kind of liked the song. It stands out for me as being quite different from Sex and Candy, which is why I chose it. I believe you guys have at least heard this song before. Zach, why don't you give us your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I really liked the debut self-titled album, and it struck enough of a chord with me that I went out and bought their second album, Shapeshifter, and listened to it quite a few times. And of course, the yodeling on It's Saturday was like a little bit, it was as an acquired taste, but I really like that song, and there are definitely some others on this album that I like too, like Secret Squirrel is another fun one. But yeah, Rebel Sodville is. I'm glad you picked it because it wasn't one that really popped out at me when I listened to that album. It definitely was familiar, but it wasn't like, what's going on here. And so, given this chance to actually get deeper into it, there are a lot of things to like. In some ways, it kind of feels a little bit like a drinking song, like an Irish drinking song.
Yeah.
In other ways, you've got the lyrics that evoke kind of a D&D feel or like a Middle Ages theme with like the courts and the jesters, and it kind of when as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking about what's happening in sort of like a knights going and fighting on their horses with their swords, that type of scenario. And then, of course, the guitar soloing is, like you said, like a legitimate guitar solo, which at part, it actually has this kind of like Baroque-ish type of, like up and down the scale type of feel to it, which I really, really liked. I also want to call attention to the choruses, which I think are really cool because they're kind of verses unto themselves. Mm-hmm. And I've always liked that in songs when the chorus changes, like it's not just the exact same thing
when it's unique to the to what's going on in the song.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's part of the story, and it is a chorus, but it does its own thing. It has its own unique words and slightly different variations on the patterns. I love the mix on it. Like you said, it's produced. The production is great. The dynamics are great. It's got like. Of course, the distorted guitar that really is sort of center stage, but then it's got like the underbed of the acoustic guitar in there that kind of gives it a little extra like punch. And I think my favorite part about it is the breakdown, like where the toms really get in there, and then the bass has a little bit more movement. Like the bass is good in the rest of the song, but it's kind of simplistic. But in that breakdown, it kind of does a little bit more in there that you start to feel. So yeah, I really enjoy this song a lot. It's got some great stuff going on. It's a fun little song that is part of a fun album. Which in listening to this song, I went back and listened to that album again, and it gave me fond memories of the late '90s of enjoying something from Marcy Playground. So Dave, what do you got?
Oh, I love this song. I never spent much time with this album. I probably listened to it through once or twice, but I never purchased it. But the Marcy Playground debut album, I've probably, if it had been a record, I'd have worn the grooves all the way through the amount of times I've listened to it. And the first time I listened to this song for this recording, for this podcast, it made me instantly think of One More Suicide off of the first album. Probably because it's in 3/4 and it has that Marcy Playground sound to it. The very traditional Marcy Playground's distinct sound. But then once you actually listen to the lyrics, they're quite different. And like you said, this is definitely a story that they're telling with the Queen and the Knights and the Jokers, and there's a lot going on. And I love this kind of lyrics where you've got, I don't know if I don't know if anyone's listened to last week's episode, but this is a stark contrast to what was going on there, where you've definitely got a beginning, middle, and end. And this is the way I like songs to be written. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed every second of it. Yeah, I've got nothing more to add. I mean, I agree with everything you guys already said, and it's a good one. It makes me want to spend more time with this album, which clearly I didn't do enough of because I didn't recognize it from when I had listened to it previously.
Yeah, I do prefer the debut album, but because I think there's a few songs for me, and I'll ask you what you think in a sec, Zach. But I think there's a few songs on Shapeshifters which are kind of misses. Not that they're bad, but there's more sort of there's more highs and then sort of not as highs. Whereas for me, the debut album is like I don't really have anything negative to say about any of the songs. There's I mean, maybe it's partly the production, but there's like a big strong melodies that jump out a little bit more on this album. What do you think, Zach? What's your comparison between the two albums?
Yeah, I agree. I think everything on the first album is very memorable, and on this one there are some really great memorable songs on Shapeshifter, but there are some extremely forgettable songs, and Rebel Sodville, Secret Squirrel, All the Lights Went Out. Those are extremely memorable ones. And then there are ones that I'm looking at the track list. I'm like, I can't recall what that song was actually about, or if there was anything that popped out at me.
Yeah, this is a bit of a companion track in my mind to Cloak of Elvenkind from the debut.
Yeah,
in that the theme is sort of D&D related.
Yeah.
I mean, that one's directly D&D related.
That one's talking about, whether it's a symbol or not for something else. Is talking, we always, back when we were in high school and we played D&D, we would be like, if we could find a song that referred to D&D, we'd be like high-fiving each other and doing forensic analysis. 16 books. That's nine levels of wizard spells and 7 of priest spells. And, we were pretty excited about that stuff. And this is more the sketching images from a potential, campaign setting, and
Right.
what I think is cool about it is it the lyrics bring up a bunch of different images, and, you've got these characters like Jolly Roger and Dolly Dagger, which is apparently a reference to a Jimi Hendrix song, which I don't really know that Jimi Hendrix song, but I was looking around trying to figure out what a Sodville is, and all I can find is it's like a township in Texas or Kansas or something. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out, but it just sketches these images, and the sort of gives you a feeling of like a sort of beleaguered court hoping for help and trying to curry favor from warriors, and I don't know, just it's an interesting sort of images it sketches in your brain without really telling a specific story. I just find that combined with, you're right, Zach, that sort of Baroque feel, there's a little bit of that in there. It's just a song I like sitting in and listening to. It's one of the ones that really jumped out at me when I first listened to the album, and it's still one of my favorites on there. Yeah. Well, I think that's we've kind of covered it. Why don't we? I think it's pretty obvious, but I'll say that I think this song is good. And if you guys, Zach, why don't you give your official verdict?
I agree. I think this is a good song, definitely.
Yeah, I agree too. This one will definitely hit the 64 Tacos approved playlist.
Right next to Newgrass.
No, Avi, that one didn't make it.
We'll see. We haven't officially voted yet. I mean, we did. But
no, we didn't.
There might be a recount. There might be some fraud in this election.
Storm the Capitals, that you're saying?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh boy, too soon.
Well, why don't we move on before we get ourselves into trouble? Move on to next week's song. I believe it's yours, Dave.
Yeah, we're going to continue this the One Hit Wonders theme for one more cycle. I chose a Cardigans song called "My Favorite Game." If you want more content like this, you can find everything we've done at 64tacos.com. And if you really liked it, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/64tacos, where you can buy us a taco. Thanks for listening.
I caught it on audio.